The records of the Galactic Council regarding the species known as Homo sapiens are brief. They are kept in a sealed data vault, protected by triple-layered quantum encryption, and marked with a glyph that translates roughly to "Do not wake." For thousands of cycles, the Council believed that the greatest threats to cosmic order were the devouring swarms of the insectoid krill, or perhaps the hyper-advanced artificial intelligences of the Silicon Nebula. We were wrong. We were catastrophically, irreversibly wrong. The galaxy's worst nightmare isn't a swarm, and it isn't a machine. It is soft, squishy, water-filled, and utterly insane. It is human. To understand the horror, you must first understand the Ethelgard Empire. We were the pinnacle of evolution. Our carapaces were impervious to small arms fire. Our logic was flawless, honed by eons of discarding weak emotions. We conquered worlds not through rage, but through calculation. If a species resisted, we calculated the kinetic energy required to subdue them, applied it, and integrated the survivors as servants. It was clean, it was efficient, it was inevitable. Then we arrived at the edge of the Orion Arm. Our long-range scanners picked up a loose confederation of planetary colonies. The inhabitants were biologically unimpressive. No natural armor, no claws, poor night vision. Their skeletal structures were internal and brittle, prone to breaking under stress. Their lifespan was laughably short, barely a blink in the eye of an Ethelgard High Commander. We designated them Species 849. We estimated a planetary subjugation time of 3 solar cycles. I am High Commander Xylith, and I am recording this log from the wreckage of my flagship, drifting in the void above a world the humans call Reach. It has been 5 years. We have not conquered them. We are not winning. And I am terrified to close my optical sensors, because when I do, I see them. The mistake began with our initial assessment of their biology. We scanned them and saw weakness. What we failed to see was the paradox of their evolution. Humans evolved on a death world, a planet with shifting tectonic plates, chaotic weather patterns, and predators far stronger than themselves. To survive, they didn't develop armor, they developed endurance. And more importantly, they developed an internal chemical cocktail that defies all laws of sapient preservation. The invasion of the colony world of Kalis the Fawn was supposed to be a standard pacification. We dropped 3 legions of heavy shock troops into the capital city. The humans were outgunned. Their kinetic projectile weapons were primitive compared to our plasma casters. We breached their defensive lines within the first hour. Logic dictated they would surrender. When an Ethelgard unit sustains 40% casualties, we retreat to preserve biomass. It is the only logical choice. But the humans did not retreat. My field commander, Centurion Valak, reported a strange anomaly on the 2nd day. He had cornered a human battalion in a collapsed industrial sector. The humans were cut off from supply lines. They were starving. They were wounded. By all metrics, their combat effectiveness should have been 0. Valak demanded their surrender. The humans responded by broadcasting a dissonant, rhythmic audio file at maximum volume, something they called heavy metal, and charging. It wasn't a tactical charge. It was a stampede. They ran directly into plasma fire. And this is where the nightmare began. I watched the telemetry feeds. I saw a human male, missing his left arm from the elbow down, cauterized by a plasma bolt, continue to run forward. He was screaming, but not in pain. He was screaming in fury. He tackled a shock trooper, an elite warrior twice his size, and bludgeoned him to death with a sharpened piece of rebar. How? How was this possible? I ordered a dissection of the fallen human. The results were disturbing. The human's bloodstream was flooded with cortisol, adrenaline, and endorphins. Their brain had effectively shut down all pain receptors. They had bypassed the safety limits of their own muscular system. The human had exerted enough force to snap his own tendons, yet he had kept fighting until his heart burst. We learned a new word that day: adrenaline, a combat drug produced naturally by their own bodies. When threatened, humans do not just fight. They biologically transform into monsters. They become faster, stronger, and oblivious to injury. We were not fighting a civilized species. We were fighting a galaxy of biological time bombs waiting to detonate. The war dragged on. We escalated. If they would not surrender to shock troops, we would break their spirit. We began orbital bombardments. We leveled cities. We burned their crops. We turned their atmosphere into a smog-choked hellscape. Surely, the psychological trauma would force a capitulation. We failed to understand the human psychological trait known as spite. On the planet designated Harvest, we intercepted a transmission between two human commanders. One was advising retreat. The other, a female designated Commander Vance, replied with a phrase that the translator struggled to parse. She said, "I will burn this planet to ash before I let them take it. If they want the dirt, they can have the dirt, but they will choke on the smoke." They didn't just fight us, they weaponized their own suffering. When we deployed a neurotoxin gas that caused hallucinations, the humans didn't flee. They put on respirators with painted skeletal grins and fought in the fog using trench knives. They turned our psychological warfare back on us. Our troops began to report sightings of demons in the mist. Morale among the Ethelguard, usually a constant variable, began to plummet. The turning point, the moment I realized we were doomed, came during the Siege of Sol. We had pushed them back to their home system. We had destroyed their fleets. We had surrounded their blue marble of a homeworld. The High Council demanded the final strike. I was tasked with leading the ground invasion of Earth. We landed in a region they called the Dead Zone. It was a radioactive wasteland from their own past wars. Yes, they had nuked their own planet long before we arrived, a fact that should have been a warning sign. We marched on a fortress deeply embedded in a mountain range. The resistance was stiff, but we had the numbers. We breached the main gates. My personal guard and I entered the command center. We expected to find their leaders cowering, ready to beg for mercy. Instead, we found a single human sitting in a chair, facing the door. He was old, his hair white, his face lined with the scars of 100 battles. He wore a simple uniform. He was smoking a small stick of burning vegetation. He didn't look up as we leveled our weapons at him. "You are defeated," I told him through my vocoder. "Surrender, and your species will be preserved as labor caste." The old human took a long drag from the smoke and exhaled. He looked at me, and his eyes, they were void of fear. They were tired, yes, but behind the fatigue was something ancient and terrifying. It was the look of a predator that had decided the prey wasn't worth the effort, but would kill it anyway. "Defeated?" the human wheezed, a dry, rattling chuckle escaping his chest. "You think because you burned our ships, you've won. You think because you cracked our cities, we're broken." He stood up, slowly, painfully. "Buddy, you just removed all the things we had to lose. You didn't disarm us. You freed us." I didn't understand. Logic dictates... Logic? The human spat on the floor. "Let me tell you about human logic. We are a species that drinks poison for fun. We strap engines to fragile metal tubes and shoot ourselves into the void because we're bored. We bond with predators and keep them as pets. And when someone tries to exterminate us, we don't just survive, we take them with us." He pressed a button on the console. Klaxons began to wail. A computerized voice echoed through the facility. Protocol Samson initialized. Planetary core destabilization in T-10 minutes. I froze. My sensors processed the data. They had rigged the geothermal energy plants across the entire continent. They weren't just going to blow up the base. They were going to crack the tectonic plates. They were going to turn the northern hemisphere into a volcanic apocalypse. "You will destroy yourselves," I said, my logic processors failing to find a solution. "This is suicide. It is illogical." The old man smiled. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. It was a smile of absolute, jagged victory. "If we die free. And you burn with us. Welcome to Earth." I ordered a full retreat. We fled. We ran like cowards. We scrambled back to our dropships as the ground began to shake and the mountains began to crumble. I watched from orbit as the continent fractured, plumes of magma reaching for the stratosphere. They had sacrificed a third of their habitable landmass just to deny us a foothold. That was the day the Ethelgard Empire stopped expanding. We realized that you cannot conquer a species that is willing to slit its own throat just to bleed on your uniform. But the story does not end there. If only it did. We quarantined the Sol system. We placed warning beacons around their territory. We thought that if we left them alone, they would eventually die out, consumed by their own madness. 5 cycles later, they broke the quarantine. They didn't come out with warships. They came out with hospital ships, salvage vessels, colony arcs. We intercepted one of their fleets. I was on the bridge, expecting their surrender. Instead, a transmission came through. It was Commander Vance. She looked older, scarred, half her face covered in cybernetic grafts. "This is the United Terran fleets," she broadcasted on an open channel. "We are responding to a distress call from the Cygnus sector. We picked up readings of a plague outbreak on an Ethelgard colony world. We are delivering medical aid and food supplies." I was stunned. The Cygnus colony was indeed suffering from a viral outbreak, one we had calculated was too costly to cure. We had left our own kind to die because the resource expenditure exceeded the value of the biomass. "Why?" I asked her. "We tried to exterminate you. We burned your worlds. Why would you save us?" Vance looked at the camera, and for the first time, I understood the true duality of humanity. The same adrenaline that makes them monsters in war makes them relentless in compassion. They do not know when to stop fighting, and they do not know when to stop caring. They are creatures of extremes. "Because," Vance said, her voice hard as steel, "we aren't you. We don't leave people behind, not even our enemies. Besides," she leaned closer to the camera, "if we let you die from a flu, who are we going to beat in the next war games? Clear the lane, Ethelgard. The humans are coming through." They saved the colony. Humans, wearing hazard suits, walked into plague zones that our drones refused to enter. They worked for 48 hours straight without sleep, fueled by caffeine and that terrified determination to refuse death's dominion. They saved 3 million Ethelgard lives. And then, they sent us the bill. It wasn't for credits. It wasn't for resources. The invoice simply read, "Don't come back to Earth. Next time, we won't be this nice." The Galactic Council is terrified. Not because humans are conquerors. We are terrified because they are unpredictable. They are the variables in the equation that cannot be solved. They are the chaos factor. We watch them now from the shadows. We watch as they rebuild their glassed planets. We watch as they strap engines to asteroids and ride them. We watch as they argue and fight amongst themselves, only to unite instantly the moment an external threat appears. I am recording this as a warning to any species that thinks to traverse the Orion Arm. If you encounter a ship with no shields, leaking radiation, blasting rhythmic noise, and piloted by a soft, pink biped, run. Do not engage, do not negotiate, do not threaten. Because if you push them, they will not just defeat you, they will traumatize you. They will break your logic. They will endure the unendurable, and they will smile while they do it. The galaxy is dark and full of terrors, but the darkness isn't what scares me anymore. It's the light, the burning, chaotic, indomitable fire of the human spirit. End log. Let's go deeper. Let's talk about the specific incident on the mining moon of Tartarus. This file was recently declassified, and it illustrates the physical horror of fighting humans in close quarters. The moon was a labyrinth of subterranean tunnels, zero-gravity pockets, pitch black. Our sensors work on thermal imaging, which usually gives us the advantage. But the humans covered themselves in thermal dampening mud. They reverted to primitive instincts. I spoke with a survivor of the Tartarus campaign, a drone soldier named Unit 734. He is currently in a rehabilitation cycle for cognitive dissonance. He cannot stop shaking. They were in the walls, Unit 734 told me. We were hunting them. We had superior tech. We had motion trackers. But they moved when the ambient machinery thrummed, masking their footsteps. They didn't use energy weapons. They used solid-state projectiles, silent, invisible. Unit 734 described a skirmish in Sector 9. A squad of 10 Ethelgard elites against 3 humans. The humans had run out of ammunition. We cornered them, 734 said. We thought it was over. Then the largest one. He took a stimulant, a medical injector. He stabbed it directly into his neck. He roared. It wasn't a word. It was a sound of pure primal rejection of reality. The human, fueled by combat stims, ripped a heavy blast door off its hinges, a feat that should have shattered his skeletal structure, and used it as a shield to charge the elites. The other 2 humans followed, wielding kinetic hammers used for mining. They broke us, 734 whispered. Not with plasma. They crushed our carapaces with blunt force. They fought like cornered beasts. One of them had a punctured lung. I could hear the air wheezing. He didn't stop. He pinned my squad leader to the ground and... 734 paused, his optical sensors dimming. He bit him. The human bit through the sensory cables. He used his teeth as a weapon. Who does that? What kind of organism uses its feeding orifice for combat? The humans took the moon back, not by tactical superiority, but by making the environment so hostile, so terrifying, that our troops simply refused to enter the tunnels. They booby-trapped the airlocks. They rigged the gravity generators to fluctuate randomly, slamming our soldiers into ceilings and floors. They turned the mining drills into defensive turrets. And through it all, they broadcasted messages. Not pleas for mercy, jokes. Come and get us, squid faces. Free dental exams in Sector 4. I bet you taste like calamari. Humor. In the face of extinction, they mocked us. This psychological resilience is their greatest weapon. You cannot break a species that laughs at its own demise. I have spent cycles analyzing their history. It is a history of blood. They have fought each other for thousands of years, over gods, over resources, over lines on a map. They are experts at killing. We were fools to think we could teach them anything about war. We merely gave them a common enemy. We unified them. And that is the greatest mistake of the Ethelgard. By attacking humanity, we woke the sleeping giant. We took a fractured, squabbling species and forged them into a monolithic weapon of war. Now, let us look at the present day. The Peace Treaty. Humanity has been granted a seat on the Galactic Council. It was a controversial decision. The Silic's hegemony protested, claiming humans were too volatile. The humans responded by sending a diplomat, not a warrior, a small, elderly woman named Ambassador Wu. She walked into the council chamber, surrounded by species that could crush her with a thought. She carried no weapons. She carried a teapot. She poured tea for the High Counselors. She sat down, and she began to speak. "We appreciate the seat," she said softly. "We have much to learn from you. Your technology, your history. It is fascinating." The Silic's representative sneered. "And what do you offer us, little mammal? You are primitive. You are violent." Ambassador Wu smiled. It was the grandmotherly version of the smile I saw on Earth. "We offer you protection." The chamber erupted in laughter. Protection from the species that barely survived its own birth. Wu waited for the laughter to die down. She took a sip of her tea. "There are things in the dark space," she said, her voice dropping an octave. "Things outside this galaxy. We've seen them. The Void Stalkers, the Entropy Lords. You know they are coming. You've calculated the odds. You know you cannot win." Silence fell over the chamber. She was right. We had detected the extra-galactic threats. We had calculated a 99% probability of total galactic extinction within 2 centuries. "We aren't like you," Wu continued. "You calculate odds. You look at a 99% chance of failure, and you prepare for the end. You mourn before the battle begins." She stood up, and for a moment, she seemed 10 feet tall. Humans don't care about the odds. Tell a human they have a 1% chance of survival, and they won't despair. They'll say, "So you're saying there's a chance?" We thrive in the impossible. We live in the 1%. She placed her hands on the podium. "You need us. Not because we are smarter, not because we are stronger, but because we are too stubborn to die. When the Void Stalkers come, your logic will tell you to surrender. Our madness will tell us to pick up a rock and aim for the eye. We will be your shield. We will be your monsters. And all we ask in return is that you don't touch our boats." The vote passed. Humanity is now the designated guardian caste of the Galactic Council. It is ironic. The species we tried to exterminate is now the only thing standing between us and the void. I often think back to that human on Earth, the one with the smoke. You didn't disarm us. You freed us. We freed them from their isolation. We showed them the stars. And now, they own the stars. The galaxy is changing. The precise, orderly lines of the Ethelguard and the Silics are being blurred by human chaos. Their culture is infecting ours. Young Ethelguard are listening to their music. They are attempting to understand jokes. Some are even trying to consume human cuisine, with disastrous gastrointestinal results. But there is a sense of hope now. A strange, illogical hope. Last week, a research vessel of ours suffered a catastrophic reactor failure near the Horsehead Nebula. The radiation shielding collapsed. The crew was resigned to death. They sent their final logs. Then, a human salvage tug appeared. It was an ugly, rusted bucket of bolts named the Indestructible T2. It shouldn't have been able to fly, let alone warp. The human captain hailed them. "Hang on, buddies. We're coming alongside." "It is too dangerous," our captain replied. "Radiation levels are critical. You will be contaminated." Yeah. Tell it to my oncologist," the human replied. "I'm clamping on. Prepare for extraction." They dragged our ship out of the nebula. The human ship took heavy radiation damage. Their crew will likely suffer shortened lifespans. When our captain asked why they did it, the human simply shrugged. "Today, you. Tomorrow, me. That is the essence of humanity. The galaxy's worst nightmare is also its greatest miracle. They are the demons who run into the fire to save you. They are the berserkers who will burn a world to save a friend. So, listen to this log, and remember, be polite to the humans. Do not insult their pets. Do not touch their ships. And for the love of the stars, if you see them drinking a bubbling dark liquid called coffee, do not stand between them and the pot. This is High Commander Xylith, signing off. I am going to attempt to play a human game called Poker with Ambassador Wu. I have calculated the probabilities. I should win. Update to log. I did not win. Ambassador Wu has taken my credits, my ceremonial dagger, and my flagship. She was bluffing, a concept my logic processors still cannot comprehend. She held a hand of absolutely nothing, yet she acted as though she held the universe. And I folded. I folded because I looked in her eyes and saw that ancient human spirit. The spirit that says, I might have nothing, but I will make you believe I have everything. Humanity. Fuck yeah, indeed. End recording. Let's shift perspective one final time. Let's look at the medical archives of the Galactic Alliance, specifically the file on human physiology under duress. This is essential for any species attempting to engage in combat or cohabitation with Terrans. Subject: human skeletal regeneration. Most species, when a bone is broken, require tank immersion for weeks to reknit the calcium matrix. Humans? They wrap the limb in a primitive cast, or sometimes just a stiff cloth, and keep working. Their bodies deposit excess calcium at the break site. The bone heals stronger than it was before. It is a biological adaptation for constant violence. You break them, and they calcify into something harder. Subject: scar tissue. Human skin is soft. It tears easily, but the repair mechanism is aggressive. It creates fibrous, thick tissue. A veteran human soldier is essentially a map of their survival. They wear their trauma as armor. I once saw a human marine with a scar running from his eye to his jaw. I asked if it impaired him. He laughed and said, "It reminds me to duck faster next time." They learn, they adapt, they scar over. Subject: hysterical strength. We touched on this earlier, but the mechanics are baffling. A human mother, seeing her offspring trapped under a transport vehicle, lifted the vehicle. The mass was approximately 2 tons. The structural integrity of her spine should have collapsed. Her muscles should have torn from the bone. They did tear. She spent months in recovery. But in that moment, she became a god. She rewrote the laws of physics through sheer maternal fury. Do not threaten what a human loves. They will access energy reserves that technically do not exist. And finally, subject: the human pack bonding instinct. This is perhaps the most dangerous trait. Humans will pack bond with anything. A rock, a cleaning drone, a deadly predator, an enemy soldier. There is a recorded incident on the frontier world of Vesta. A human soldier and an Ethelgard drone were trapped in a cave-in for 3 weeks. They were enemies. They should have killed each other to conserve oxygen. When the rescue team arrived, they found the human and the Ethelgard sitting together. The human had shared his rations. He had named the Ethelgard Kevin. He had taught Kevin how to play a game called tic-tac-toe scratched into the dirt. The human refused to leave without the Ethelgard. "Kevin's with me," he said, aiming his weapon at his own rescuers. "He saved my life. I save his." The Ethelgard High Command was confused. The drone was defective. It should be scrapped. The human insisted on adopting it. Kevin now lives on a farm in Nebraska on Earth. He herds sheep. He is apparently very good at it. This ability to turn enemies into family is insidious. You cannot maintain a war against humans, because eventually they will invite you to dinner. They will feed you. They will ask about your hatchlings. They will make you see them as people, and in doing so, they defeat you without firing a shot. They conquer you with friendship. It is the ultimate biological weapon. So, to the Council, I say this. We were right to be afraid. But we were wrong about the reason. We shouldn't fear their anger, though it is terrible. We should fear their kindness, because once a human decides you are their friend, you are stuck with them. They will drag you into their chaos. They will make you watch their terrible movies. They will make you eat their spicy food. They will defend you against the Void Stalkers until the last star burns out. And maybe, just maybe, that isn't such a nightmare after all. This is the final entry. The humans have introduced a new initiative. They call it the Hold My Beer Protocol. It involves taking the most dangerous, unstable FTL drives and strapping them to single-seat fighters to explore the extragalactic void. They are looking for the Void Stalkers. They aren't waiting for the invasion. They are going hunting. I asked Commander Vance why they would seek out such a threat. She looked at me, polishing her cybernetic eye with a cloth. Best defense is a good offense, Xylith. Besides, we're getting bored, and a bored human is a dangerous human. She grinned. Want to come along? We painted flames on the side of your ship. It makes it go faster. I looked at my ship. It had indeed been painted with crude red and orange chemical pigments, mimicking fire. It was illogical. Friction does not exist in a vacuum. Paint color has no effect on velocity. Okay, I said. Let's go. Because I am beginning to realize that logic is overrated. And if I am going to die, I want to die fighting alongside the madmen of the galaxy. Humanity, the galaxy's nightmare, the galaxy's savior, the galaxy's best friend. Whatever you call them, they are here to stay. Prepared for launch, initiating Hold My Beer Protocol in 3, 2, 1.